Hello, today is my final video in my first draft prep in my writing process playlist, and I'm calling this video Scrambling because it is the last video before I get into the marathon session of my first draft. And I use that word marathon intentionally because that's kind of how I see writing the first draft. I'm going to try to say this as honestly as possible. I don't see myself as a writer per se. I do write, obviously, but I see myself as more of a creator. Some writers, I would say, are more on the traditional side, where their process is almost clinical. I don't see myself in that way. I see myself as someone that sets up conditions, but then goes into the unknown. It's a lot about getting mentally prepared, physically prepared, have my heart in order, be open to my intuition as much as possible. In the past, all the big projects I've done, whether it's an art project or a writing project, have been ordeals, and these ordeals changed me as a person. When I'm in the drafting mode of a writing project, I feel like not just the universe, but the conditions around me kind of twist to my will in some ways. And I'm not saying that to say that I have control over it necessarily. In fact, I think it's almost the opposite. I think I lose control. And when you're losing control like that, it's kind of a scary situation. There's a lot of nervousness and fear. It's kind of like falling in love or having a new job or some kind of new opportunity. And you know it's going to change you forever. And you know you have to do it, but you're kind of a little apprehensive. Most of the times that I've gotten into this mindset, I can only say there was a magical component involved. Synchronicities would happen, weird turns of fate came into play. The universe is trying to help me complete the project, but also trying to hinder me at the same time to make me make certain choices or to make me think about things differently. I think it's the scariest time of writing the book. The planning time, is actually quite pleasurable in my opinion. I like doing the research and I like the organized quality of making the outlines and stuff. And I appreciate the editing time as well for similar reasons. But the first draft is always the scariest in my opinion. It's because you're on the verge of something. Something that you kind of know what it is, but you don't. And it is going to lead you to what it needs to be. That can be kind of good or bad because, one time when I was writing one of my previous novels, I left my apartment under short circumstances because there was a breakup involved and everything just went crazy. And, I could have failed and not completed the project, but I was committed to it, and despite the upheavals, that unexpected element created such an important part of the novel that I just can't even see the novel without comparing it with that experience. The thing to remember when you're writing a novel is that it's not just what's in your brain and what you're trying to get out or some story or these kind of things. It's also a collaboration with fate and with life, and life often has different plans than you do. So in this moment, I know I'm starting it next week, and I'm thinking about things about how am I going to avoid burnout, how am I going to maintain the imperfect mindset. And what I mean by that is writing to be imperfect, so I'm not holding on to it, I'm just doing it. Whatever I write, I will fix it later in draft 2 and 3 and so on. It is like a marathon, and I would say in some ways, at least in my case, this might not be the case for every writer, but in my case, it's kind of a psychic marathon. And when I say psychic, I don't mean, reading minds and stuff. I mean more like you have to kind of see it, but you don't quite know it exactly until you start pulling pieces away. And I think that that's how this process is, especially in the beginning of the first draft, because that you don't really know what it is yet. You won't know that until you're into it a little bit. So it's important to get your health in order too, I think. I've noticed that when I eat really lean, either just eating meat or fasting, my mind is much more clear, and I can often reason myself out of situations that way. If I'm eating a lot of sugar or bread or things like that, I feel like my mind is dull and it can't reason as well. So I'm paying attention to that. I'm paying attention to my mental health, trying to remain optimistic. It's a little bit difficult right now because I'm moving next week, so it's kind of in tandem with me starting this, so there's a little bit of fear involved with that, because I'm not just moving apartments, I'm moving countries. I'm moving from South Korea to Mexico. I'm going to take probably 2 weeks off from this playlist. 1 week I'll be moving, and then the following week I'll be writing, and then I'll come back with an update on my first week of how the writing went. So we'll see what happens then. I don't think I'm going to do weekly updates. I might. I haven't really decided yet, but for the next 3 months I'm going to be writing this first draft, and I'm going to be taking you through that process in my first draft part of this playlist. So that's all I got for today. Take care. Have a good day.